pleasure for me to be here in Pamplona. It's my first visit to Pamplona. When I came here, my son asked, have you been here before? And I said, yes, when I was young, I was running with the bulls. Of course, I wasn't. So today I'm going to present U-Multirank to you, a new multidimensional international ranking. U-Multirank is at the moment supported and funded by the European Commission. It's a project or a ranking which is produced by a consortium of European institutions and organizations. The lead partners, you see the lead organizations, you see the logos, are my own organization, CHE, Center for Higher Education. In Germany, we are producing a national ranking of German universities for 15 years now. Second lead partner is CHEPS, the Center for Higher Education Policy Studies in the Netherlands. This is, for example, the organization that is running the parallel European project called U-MAP, which aims at developing a multidimensional classification of European higher education institutions. And third partner, the Center for Science and Technology Studies at the University of Leiden, probably the leading research center on Webometrics in higher education. So I will start with some general thoughts on rankings and reputation, and then present U-Multirank to you. Well, in the previous sessions, we already heard and learned a lot of reputation, so I do not have to go into this in much detail. We learned that reputation is an aggregate social view about the quality of or the performance of any social unit. This means reputation should not be mixed up with performance or high quality. We already learned, and also in the presentation this morning, that there are many reputations, different reputation among different stakeholders, among different groups, academics, employers, housewives, the general public, and with regard to different academic fields in higher education. Reputation plays a major role in higher education. The German sociologist Niklas Luhmann said that in science, reputation is the second basic distinction describing the social system of science after the distinction of true and false. And reputation has an impact on academic careers, on students' decisions. We learned about the high importance of reputation in the decision-making process of PhD students this morning. On evaluations and policies, in some countries now it has the reputation of, or the ranking position of universities now also has an impact on immigration policies. And what we can say, in a way, regarding the relation of rankings and reputation, before we had rankings, many decisions were based only on reputation and not on evidence, and this evidence has been introduced to the system, not at least by rankings. So rankings, they heavily influence the reputation of universities, and some rankings, they also measure the reputation of universities as one of their indicators. In my view, or I think, if rankings affect the reputation of universities just by measuring this very reputation, this is a circular procedure or some kind of reification of social reality. And hence, in my view, rankings should measure performance rather than reputation. In our national ranking, we use a national reputation survey, but our national ranking is also a multidimensional ranking without a composite score, and in this methodology we can compare and contrast the reputation with the performance measures. And I think it is particularly problematic if reputation is used as one or indicator to calculate a composite overall score. So if you look, if you look on the existing global rankings and try to position them along those two lines, one if they are focusing rather on reputation or on performance only, or if they look on research or have a broader spectrum of indicators looking on teaching and learning and other dimensions, I think they positioned like that. Of course, Times Higher Reputation ranking by name is a purely reputational ranking. Then both in the QS and in the Times Higher world rankings, reputation plays a major or an important role, also with regard to their weight in the composite score. And there are two of the global rankings do not measure reputation at all. They only have performance indicators. One is the Shanghai ranking and the other is U-Multirank, which I'm going to present to you now. So, what is new about U-Multirank compared to other global rankings? The major aim of U-Multirank is to provide transparency about the diversity of in higher education, about the diversity of higher education institutions with very different profiles, very different structures, and very different missions. This also means that we want to make visible the diversity of excellences beyond research excellence only. There are, in a way, world-class teaching universities, or there can be very excellent universities with regard to regional engagement or technology transfer. So the traditional global rankings actually include only one type of higher education institution, the internationally oriented comprehensive research university. This type of university presents only, according to the way of counting the higher education institutions, 3 to 5% of all higher education institutions in the world. Of course, it is legitimate to focus on this type of institutions and compare their performance among each other or against each other, but this does not reflect the diversity of higher education institutions. And I think, in particular, for national higher education systems, they need to have diversity. They need different institutions with different missions, not only, and of course, they cannot only have world-class research universities. And in my view, this type of information is not very helpful to most users. As I said, for example, the top 100 research universities have about 30 to 35,000 students. Only in Germany we have 2.5 million students, so only a very, very, very little percentage of students is actually enrolled in those type of institutions. So the main or the unique selling point of U-Multirank, which distinguishes it from other global rankings, is the multidimensional methodology, which goes beyond the traditional focus on research excellence only. U-Multirank covers about 30 indicators on 5 dimensions: on teaching and learning, research, of course, knowledge transfer, and both the international orientation and the regional engagement of universities. Multidimensional ranking means that U-Multirank does not calculate a composite indicator, so there are no predefined weights of the individual indicators. Instead, we have a single ranking for each indicator, which means the university can rank high on one indicator and rank low on another indicator. It is a user-driven ranking in this sense. Jan already mentioned that in U-Multirank, the decision about the relevance of the indicators is left to the users. Students have probably different priorities with regard to the indicators than academic researchers or policymakers. And I think this is almost an epistemological argument. There is no objective ranking, no one objective ranking. Rankings always reflect conceptual frameworks of producers. So what U-Multirank offers a broad set of indicators. Of course, as you already mentioned, users cannot add indicators of their own to the system, but within the set of indicators, the users decide how relevant the indicators are to them. So we think that there are neither theoretical nor empirical reasons to give a particular weight to a particular indicator, why 30% on reputation and 20 on citations and not the other way around. And if you look on, or some empirical studies showed that small changes in the weights of the indicators can have very different results then. So this is left to the user in U-Multirank. So we say that this is a kind of democratized approach, and this is implemented in a flexible web tool. All the data and results are freely accessible on our website. I'm going to present, or this is an example of a results table in U-Multirank. Here, this is for the field-based ranking in physics. As the other rankings, U-Multirank combines both institutional rankings of the whole universities with a set of field or subject-based rankings. First, you see there is no league table in U-Multirank, as we do not use a composite score. But even within, or for the single indicators, we do not calculate a league table with a position from number 1 to number 500. Instead, the university or the institutions are ranked into 5 different groups, from A, top score, to E, weak performance on each indicator. This is the default table, which shows 3 indicators per dimension. And then, of course, in the web tool, you are free to change, to add indicators, remove indicators from this list, and then produce a personalized ranking. So there are several ways or options of sorting the table. The default sorting here is alphabetic. Then you can sort by individual indicators, and there's also an option to sort institutions according to their number of A scores of top results with regard to those indicators the user has selected. And what we see in U-Multirank, there is no university with across-the-board A or E performance. There's no university which is ranked in the top group in all the 30 indicators. In the 2015 editions, there's no university which have more than 22 A scores. On the other hand, we have only very few institutions who do not have at least one A score in one particular aspect. So U-Multirank makes visible or shows the specific profiles of the institutions, specific profile of their performance with their particular strengths and weaknesses. I want to show another example. These are 2 mid-sized German universities, Göttingen and Paderborn, and their results on the research indicators in physics. A here is the equivalent to 1 to the A top group. You see that they have very different profiles. In blue, the University of Göttingen performs very strong in the traditional research indicators of basic research, citation rate, number of publication, top-cited publications, whereas University of Paderborn performs very well with regard to a transfer of science into practice and knowledge transfer. They have an A score on, for example, co-publications with industrial partners, publications cited in patents. So a very different profile. But now the question is, which university is better with regard to something like an overall research quality and overall research performance? Of course, the composite score would have to decide that one university is better than the other by giving the particular weights to those indicators. I want to say something about the particular relation of U-Multirank to Spain. As you may know, U-Multirank has a very close cooperation with Fundación CID. They are one of the partners in our consortium. They published a national ranking of Spanish universities last year for the first time, and the data they use are the same data that we use in U-Multirank. So the communication with the universities and the data collection process among the Spanish universities, both for the national ranking and for U-Multirank, is organized by our national partner. At the moment, 61 Spanish universities are included in U-Multirank. So if I remember correctly, Spain is with regard to the number of institutions in U-Multirank, the single biggest country in U-Multirank. So this is the screenshot from the website of this UID ranking. I already mentioned all results of U-Multirank are freely accessible on our website. I I can only invite you to have a look on it, to play a little bit with the tool, which is very interactive. You can select the type of institutions you want to compare in the first step, and then make personalized ranking by looking on those indicators that are particularly relevant for you. This is why it's called U-Multirank. So for more information, you can visit the website, which also includes a detailed description of the methodology, or you can follow us on the social media or contact us by email. Thank you very much.
Thank you.